And so everybody, we start this video whilst riding the bike. I think because we're in such a nice spot, I'm not going to show much of my face in this one, and we're going to really focus on the beautiful scenery that we've got out here on the canal. Let's get to it. So, we're into another video here, and this one's going to be similar to the ones in the series. In the last few I've spoken about young people and the way the economy is for young people. It's in a very interesting spot right now. We find a lot of our young people kind of disenchanted. And I made a video just a few days ago where I spoke about the fact that a lot of young people from places like the UK seem to be moving abroad. I see it in my friendship circle. I see it in, let's say, a lot of the groups I see online, a lot of the content I see online. And many people are moving abroad for better lifestyle choices, more sunshine, better pay, or even worse pay and cheaper living conditions. Now in that video I had a lot of people in the comment section giving me a lot of different tips, a lot of different opinions, and that's cool, and I like that. A lot of people were saying it's all well and good to want to move to places like, let's say, South America, to want to move to places like, let's say, Thailand or the Philippines, or maybe even Africa, or places like India or Pakistan. Maybe it's all well and good to want to move to these places, but if you went there as a UK citizen, or any international citizen, without a skill, you're going to have a lot of trouble. And the reason for that is because the living conditions in these countries are not exceptionally cheap, in the sense that they may not cost very much at all to us, but to the people that live there, these countries may be just as, if not more expensive than the UK. And I'll agree with anyone that says that, you know, maybe it's a little bit of privilege to perhaps think about moving to a country and saying, well, that's super cheap. That's a cool thing to do. And it's not a luxury everyone gets. But as we do have that, how do we make this work? Because with that being said, even if we are, you know, US citizens or UK citizens, unless we've got a skill to bring over there, how are we going to make it rich in these countries? Because we're not going to be making the salaries and the pay that makes that justifiable. Let me explain what I would do. In the past couple of weeks on the channel, it seems like we've been focusing on a lot of social issues, but generally I have a finance channel here. I think I can do the two, because a lot of the time money and social injustice intertwine with each other. It makes sense. But let's focus specifically on the financial element of this freedom here. How do we make it work for ourselves in these countries? Well, let's hop off the bike now. Well, I think it's one of those things. So I think the first thing to consider is the very ways in which we're going to make money. Quite frankly, as we just discussed, getting a job in these places, it can add an extra bit of money, and you may be able to get a decent salary, but the best way to do it is to think of some sort of a way where you can ideally make money online. Now, I'm not going to talk about which specific method this is. You guys, if you've been watching this since the beginning, will know on the channel, and going forwards, I have been and will be testing numerous different side hustles. I run my eBay channel. I have been running my Etsy channel, more on that in a future video, and I'm always trying to find new income streams to add to the portfolio, because quite frankly, when it comes to the modern day, when wages don't match up, you've got to find a way to do it yourself, and because of that you can never really have too much money at the minute, and that's definitely something that I feel and I could do with a bit more. Regardless though, you know, that's what I do. I try and make money online. So I think that's the first thing to understand. If you're going to try and move abroad, your savings will only go so far, because your salary can usually, especially if you move into some of these countries where businesses are less set up, i.e. not moving from the UK to the US, for example, that might be a financially positive move even for your career. If you move in, say, let's say from somewhere like the UK to, I don't know, Indonesia, financially it's going to be much more hard to keep your career going. So that's worth considering. The fact that if you're going to do this, whilst the cost of living, so to speak, may be a bit cheaper there, you're going to still need to make money somehow. Now, again, I would definitely start off by getting in any money possible, whether that's from work or whether that's from doing something on the internet or trying to do something on the internet. money to have to either trial out these places on a short holiday / vacation thing, or money to have generally for maybe a down deposit on a property, or money to have for setting up your life there so things are a bit more comfortable in that transitional period, can never really be a bad thing, can it? So I'd definitely say, if it was me, I'd take in as much and any source of money that I can initially. But naturally, if this is going to be our new lives, let's say, we're going to need to find a way to do this sustainably and in a way that, quite frankly, makes sense. And unless you're like multi-millionaire status or above, you can't really live off your savings. You know, if you're like 25, like around my age, and you want to move to these places, it can be done, but you can't live off your savings. So you're going to have to come up with a sustainable plan as to how to do this. Now, I would definitely say leverage the time that you have, especially if we're talking about young people doing this. Even if you want to move there in the next couple of years, make sure you've got a plan as to when you're going to do it and what you need to do to get there. Plan it out, and of course start stacking the money and start building up that business or that income stream in some way, whether it's going to be something like you make YouTube videos like this, or even something like, you know, you're into fitness and you offer a weekly online call program for something like that, or anything. I think the first thing to understand is you need to have some sort of an online income, and the more the better really for something like this, because it is going to be capital intensive to start off. Now, of course, depending on where you're moving and what you want to do, opportunities may arise themselves. Like, for example, I speak English, as you can hopefully tell, and let's say I was to move to Spain, for example. Well, there might be a good market there for an English teacher, so a native English speaker, to teach people English. Or let's say I move to Spain again, and I move to somewhere, I don't know, I'm not going to name any specific towns, you know, it's just an example, but somewhere near the beach, there might be an opportunity there for me to set up a bar and maybe like a English pub style, let's say, and that'll be a great market, let's say. But that's not guaranteed, and definitely I'd say that's much further down the road. It's not on the earlier part of the journey. You're going to need to get someone to either tide you over or make life a lot more comfortable. And again, the beauty of this is, unlike here in the UK, where I've been saying for a long time I'm trying to get my business to, you know, maybe 6 figures or more, and I am. But unlike that sort of environment, you wouldn't necessarily need to do that. You know, how much would you need to make? Would you need to make 500, 1,000 a month? Well, that's not that much. And I can say, from the income streams that I've done, if you play your cards right, you can make about 1,000 a month or more on Etsy. You can definitely do that on eBay. You can definitely do that on YouTube, and you can probably do that on some other platforms. Again, I'm definitely getting into a point where I'm trying to reevaluate my skill set in a way, and try to bring in more from more streams, because I think I've touched on this before. Things are not always as stable in the world of online business as you may think. So, you know, I wouldn't, for that reason, try and move out somewhere in the first couple of months. I'd definitely save up a year's worth of living costs minimum, because quite frankly, if things go wrong and you've got family maybe out here in the UK or the US, having, let's say, an extra 3 or 4 or 5 or 6,000 in cash or savings or whatever is going to give you that availability and that opportunity to, if things get rough, book the plane ride or the train or the ship back to you know, England or America, something like that. It's definitely good to have a backup plan for if things do not work out, whether that be financially, maybe you just won't like the lifestyle there. Anything like that can happen, and it's all noteworthy. I guess what I'm saying is, yes, it is easier said than done to make money online, but it is not impossible, and I hope I've done a decent job at showing this on the channel. You know, my eBay account in the past month has made about 4,000 in revenue, and at a profit margin between, let's say, 25 and 33%. That gives me take-home pay, or take-home earnings rather, of well over £1,000, or maybe a bit over £1,000 if I worked it out. And again, to combine that with maybe a YouTube channel, combine that maybe with an Etsy store, or you're doing work on Fiverr as well, or you're running some sort of an online class, or some sort of a course or something like that, it's not impossible to imagine that you could be making a good few thousand a month, and enough to live out there. So if you want to see more on actually the income methods that I would personally try to look into, I can definitely make more videos on that topic, but I guess this is just a little rundown as to what I would consider when it comes to the thought of moving abroad. Again, I run the online businesses that I run. That is eBay at the minute. It's also, or has been up to this point, Etsy. I also run this YouTube channel and another YouTube channel of my own, where I make very different content to this. I now and again do invest in / swing trade stocks as well, which is not the most certain income stream because you can actually lose money in that, and opportunities, quite frankly, don't pop up too much, so I can't really say it's a stable income, but there's something that I do as well. All of these are great sources of income. Others can be found as well, but that's just my streams. You need to leverage your skills, and you can do that here in the UK. It's better to do it here and set off doing that here, because you don't want to run into those troubles when you're in a country that you may not perhaps understand as much. That could be hassle for yourself. Anyway, that's it for this one. Thank you for watching. More and more of this sort of content coming, mainly related to finance and business and the like. But if you want to see this sort of stuff, don't forget to like and subscribe, as I would like to share more and more of this stuff with you guys. So thank you, and see you soon.